In a city that hums with 1 billion electric heartbeats, a city of steel, glass, and sleepless nights, live two souls who are even more sleepless than the city itself. Their names are Leo and Julian, and they're vampires. Now, before you picture dusty castles, dramatic capes, and a lot of hissing, let me stop you right there. Leo and Julian are about as traditional as a smartphone in the 17th century. They share a slick, minimalist apartment on the 47th floor, with floor-to-ceiling windows that offer a glittering, panoramic view of the city they can never truly be a part of during the day. Their lives are a strange mix of ancient curse and modern convenience. For instance, their biggest nightly argument isn't about whose turn it is to hunt, but whose turn it is to empty the Roomba that's meticulously cleaned up the dust they, as immortal beings, don't even produce. Leo is the older one, by a few centuries at least. He's got this timeless, brooding artist vibe down to a T. He wears vintage band t-shirts, spends his nights painting abstract canvases that are all shades of black, gray, and the occasional splash of crimson, and he's perpetually trying to understand TikTok trends. He'll hold his phone at arm's length, squinting, and ask Julian, "So, the little dance, it corresponds with the pointing? Why are they pointing?" To Leo, the modern world is a fascinating, if utterly baffling, puzzle. He remembers when communication involved sending a sealed letter by horse. Now, Julian gets annoyed if he leaves him on read for more than 5 minutes. Julian, on the other hand, is the picture of modern adaptation. Turned in the late 1980s, he embraces the digital age with open arms. He's a day trader, well, a night trader, technically, who's made a small fortune manipulating stocks while the rest of the world sleeps. He wears designer tracksuits, owns every new gaming console, and his vocabulary is fluent in internet slang. He's the one who set up their high-tech blackout blinds, their blood bank delivery subscription ethically sourced, of course, and who taught Leo how to use a microwave. That was a long night. Let's just say there was an incident involving a fork and a lot of sparks. Their nightly routine is a well-oiled machine. As the sun bleeds its last orange and purple hues below the horizon, their day begins. The blackout blinds retract with a soft whir, and the city lights pour in. Julian is usually up first, scrolling through market reports on his tablet, a mug of lukewarm crimson liquid in hand. Leo stumbles out of his room a bit later, hair sticking up, complaining that the sun was too loud as it set. One evening, Julian was excitedly explaining a new cryptocurrency. "Leo, you gotta get in on this. It's called Fangcoin. The branding is perfect for us. It's decentralized, untraceable. It's the future." Leo, who was trying to untangle his headphones, just grunted. "The future, you say? I once heard someone say the printing press was the future." Next thing I knew, everyone was reading terrible romance novels and pamphlets about my unholy affliction. "I'll stick to my paintings, thank you. You're impossible." Julian sighed. "You're living in a world of instant gratification, and you still have the patience of a glacier. A glacier that has seen empires rise and fall, little one. A little respect. Their biggest challenge isn't sunlight or wooden stakes. It's boredom. And loneliness. Immortality sounds great on paper, but when you've seen it all, what's left? That's why they have their projects. Leo paints. Julian conquers the digital world. And once a week, they go out. Going out for them means navigating the vibrant, chaotic human nightlife. They've learned to blend in. No hypnotizing people for a quick bite. That's messy, unethical, and honestly, way too much paperwork in the supernatural community. Instead, they rely on Julian's subscription service and the occasional willing donor they meet online. Tonight, they were heading to a new underground club called The Crypt. The irony was not lost on them. "Are you sure about this place?" Leo asked, pulling on a leather jacket. "The last themed club you took me to had a guy in a plastic Dracula costume offering me a Bloody Mary with extra Tabasco." "Relax," Julian said. adjusting his perfectly styled hair in the reflection of their TV. Their reviews are great. They say the music is to die for. He winked. Leo just rolled his eyes. The club was a sensory overload. Strobing lights, a bass that vibrated through the floor, and a sea of bodies dancing with wild abandon. For the humans, it was a release, a few hours of escape. For Leo and Julian, it was a bit like visiting a zoo. They watched, fascinated, from a shadowy corner. They didn't drink the overpriced cocktails. They didn't sweat, and they didn't get tired. They just observed. Julian was in his element, tapping his foot to the beat. Leo looked more like a disappointed parent. They all looked so energetic, he mused, and very young. That's kind of the point of a nightclub, Leo, Julian shouted over the music. Come on, try to enjoy it. Look, that person has lights in their shoes. That's fun, right? Leo watched the flashing shoes. In my day, if your shoes were glowing, it meant you de-stepped in something magical and probably had about 10 seconds before you turned into a toad. Their night took an unexpected turn when a young woman approached them. She had bright pink hair and a curious smile. Hey, she said, her voice barely audible over the music. You guys have a weird vibe. I like it. You're not dancing. You're not drinking. You're just watching. What's your story? Julian, ever the smooth operator, flashed a charming smile. We're just soaking in the atmosphere. We're old souls. The woman, whose name was Maya, laughed. Old souls? You look like you just walked out of a fashion magazine. She turned to Leo. And you look like you're composing a tragic poem about the fleeting nature of existence. Leo was taken aback. He wasn't used to being read so accurately. Something like that, he admitted. They ended up talking for what felt like hours, tucked away in their corner. Maya was a history student, fascinated by the stories people tell. She didn't ask what they did for a living or where they were from. Instead, she asked what color they thought the 1920s tasted like and if they believed in ghosts. It was the most interesting conversation Leo had had with a mortal in decades. As the club started to thin out and the first hints of dawn threatened the horizon, they knew they had to leave. It was really cool meeting you, Maya said. Maybe I'll see you around? Maybe, Julian said, a genuine warmth in his voice. Walking back to their apartment through the deserted, pre-dawn streets, the mood between them was different. The usual post-outing cynicism was gone, replaced by a quiet contemplation. She was interesting, Leo finally said, breaking the silence. Yeah, she was, Julian agreed. It's weird, isn't it? We live these endless lives, surrounded by billions of people, but you can go 100 years without having a real conversation. They got back to their apartment just as the sky began to lighten. The blinds descended, plunging the room back into their familiar, comfortable darkness. Julian powered up his trading station, and Leo stood before a blank canvas. But tonight, something had shifted. Leo picked up a brush, but instead of reaching for the black or the gray, he paused. He thought about the flashing lights of the club, the vibrant energy of the crowd, and Maya's bright pink hair. He thought about the brief, shining connection in a sea of anonymity. He dipped his brush into a tube of brilliant, shocking pink. For the first time in a very long time, he started a painting with a color other than black. Across the city, the sun rose, signaling the end of their day and the start of a million others. But in that 47th floor apartment, for two ancient vampires, it felt like a new beginning. A reminder that even in an immortal life, there are always new colors to discover. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more tales from the hidden corners of our world. See you next time.